Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1963 British drama Kess.
Ridiculous idea of a joke.
Hey, that's not fair. This is serious business. I'm reviewing every movie that has 100% fresh rate on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm giving them all a score of 1 to 10. After I watch them and score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started the 1927 movie era, and now I'm at 1969 with Kess. This is the last movie of the 1960s, so that's very exciting. It has a 100% fresh rating from the critics and a 91% fresh rating from the audience. This movie stars David Bradley as Billy in his first starring role ever, and is based on a 1968 novel, A Kestrel for a Knave. This movie is loosely about the British education system and how the lower class unskilled laborers have a hard time of getting any upward momentum in society, any upward momentum in life, and it's seen through the story of Billy, his brother, and his mother. So Billy grows up in a situation where he is, I would say, abused by his brother physically, emotionally, mentally. Basically, his brother just kind of beats him up and kicks him around all the time. And his teachers at school are also abusive to him physically, and they abuse all the students basically at this school, but I would say they are harshest to him. I think this is all a product of the environment of which they are growing up in. So Billy is growing up in a home where his father is not around. It's just his mother and his brother. His mother works all day. She does the best she can to provide a good life for her two sons, but it's not enough. It's really not what they need to flourish in life. They are still kept bogged down in this poverty that they're feeling. She even says at some point in the movie that if he had like a richer family, if he had more of an opportunity in life, he probably could go farther.
Perhaps if he had been brought up a different environment and had a better education, he probably would have made more than what he has done. At the moment, he's just, he's hopeless case, isn't it?
But he's kind of a product of his own environment. His brother is a worker in the coal mines, which is kind of the industry that props up this country in England, or this Providence in England. I'm not sure what it's called, I'm sorry. But it props up the industry in this area, and it's where pretty much all the people who don't have a higher education, they work in the mines. And it's obviously hard physical labor. There's a lot of movies that depict this. October Sky is an example of a movie with a lot of mine workers who have a tough life. And he really takes it out on his brother. He takes out his frustrations on his brother. Unfortunately, you don't really get to see a lot of his brother, what his brother's going through as far as work goes, and as far as his life before he became a mine worker. I think if we had seen that, it would have added to a lot of what's going on in this movie. But essentially, Billy is going to school. He's not very good in school. His mind kind of wanders a lot. He's not that interested. Like a lot of the kids, he's not that interested because he knows that the type of school he's in is just setting him up to be a laborer. It's just setting him up to be a mine worker. And there's really no reason to get excited about anything. There's no reason to get excited about a future because he knows that he doesn't have much of a future. And I think the teachers kind of see this too. They see that these kids aren't going to have a bright future because of the economic state that they're in, because of the part of society that they are in, and they're really hard on these kids, and they kind of beat these kids, they make fun of these kids, they really lay into these children, and it's really not the children's fault. Billy even says at one point that he comes to school, he works, he does the best he can, and he's tired all the time, and sometimes he'll fall asleep, and it's not his fault, but the teachers beat him up anyway.
Why else do you think? Eh? There must be some reason, mustn't there?
Well, take this morning, sir. I just came in, sir, and just dozed off. I wasn't doing nothing wrong, sir. You see, I'd been up since 6. I had to do papers. Then I had to rush home to have a look at the bird and then run to school. I mean to say, you'd be tired, wouldn't you, sir?
Be exhausted.
And that's not... You shouldn't be caring for that, should you, sir?
So there's specifically one humorous part of the movie. It's humorous, but it's also not a humorous part of the movie, where I guess the physical education coach is trying to play a soccer game with these kids, but it's really just his way of kind of like living out his own dream of being a soccer player. Now, when I was in PE, the teachers never played with us. They just kind of oversaw everything, you know. But for this teacher, he actually physically plays in the game. He makes himself a captain so he can choose the best team, and then he's like incredibly competitive. He really rigs the game so that he can win. And they make Billy the goalie, which is funny because he really has no physical aptitude, so he's going to be the worst goalie ever. And he lets a couple goals go by, and the teacher, the PE teacher, just throws a ball at him and says he's doing slack work. And it's funny, but then you realize he's also like being physically kind of abused here, so it's also not funny.
Come on, quickly, Casper. I've never seen such slack work in my life. I've never seen such slack work in my life.
What's that for, sir?
Slack work, lad, slack work.
When they get to the showers, he like makes it so Billy's in the shower by himself, and he like just throws all this hot water at him, and he says it's because he lost them the game.
You got a sweat on, Casper. Or you might need a cooler after exertions in goal. Was it right when you let that goal in deliberately?
It's like a big deal to him. It's like an Al Bundy thing. Like Al Bundy finally gets that chance to win the football game. Even though he's like in his 40s, he would go to high school and try to win a football game to get that victory that he never got. And that's kind of what this teacher is. He's trying to like get some kind of victory maybe that he never got before. And he's just terrible to these kids. And everyone pretty much in Billy's life is absolutely horrendous to him. One day he happens upon this hawk that he sees flying in the sky, and he finds the hawk's nest. And he decides he's going to go up and take one of the hawks as kind of like a pet, because he wants to train this creature.
It is now.
Just thinking, I never knew.
No, there's not many that does.
Been watching from wood there. Goes onto the post, then hovers, and swoops down onto the prey, carries it off to the young'uns. It looks great.
He then goes to the library and he steals a book because he can't afford it to. Well, he needs his parents' or guardian's signature in order to get a library card. But he instead just steals the book and he takes it to his house, and he is able to train this hawk. And this kind of becomes his way of getting his mind out of school, getting his mind out of his problems, and kind of as an escape, he trains this hawk, and he really enjoys it, and he's really good at it. And they say in the movie that not a lot of people are able to do this type of thing. There's very few people who can train hawks, and he's one of them, and he does a really fantastic job at it. One day during a show and tell class, with the teacher, there's one teacher who really takes an interest in his children, and he asks, is there anything special about you, or like, what are your hobbies? And he gets up and he starts talking about this hawk, and you can really see this glimmer of hope in him that didn't exist before. This ray of sunshine that's entered into his life, where you say, okay, he finally has something that he enjoys doing.
2 inches away from its claws. And like that, like, started to jump for me eat. When it started to jump, I could move my hand away.
Hold your hand up so we can see.
Could move my hand away, like, to 4 inches and 6 inches.
Not any of the children at the school have that, it seems like. He finally has a reason to get up in the morning, and a reason to like actually pursue his life. And he talks about training this hawk. He finally he puts more than one sentence together, which in the whole movie he doesn't really do a whole lot of that, but he finally like really brightens up and really starts talking about how he loves this animal and how he trains it and what he does every day. And the teacher really sees the interest that he's taking in this, so he decides to go and watch Billy train this hawk. And he goes out and he watches him train him and watches him do his his flying around, and he thinks it's spectacular. He says, like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. This is amazing. Like, I'm so glad that you actually have a passion, that you actually are enjoying doing something, because with the kind of life that you live and the kind of opportunities that you have in life, it can be really easy to not want to live. It can be really easy to not want to try, to just give up and to just, go work the mines and live your life, not really live it, just kind of go through the motions every day. And it's nice to see someone who actually has a passion.
I'll go by the fence, eh?
It's all right. As long as you keep quiet.
I'll not say a word.
One day, Billy's brother leaves him a note that says, hey, I want you to bet on these horses for me. Here's some money, go to the tracks, bet on these horses. But Billy doesn't do it, he just takes the money. Because when he gets to the track, the guy says, these horses are bad, they're not going to win. They have really terrible odds, I wouldn't put my money on them. So he decides not to do it. But as luck would have it, these horses actually do come in first and second. So Billy's brother would have won a lot of money. Billy is absolutely enraged by this. And this is a huge spoiler in the movie, just to let you know right away. He originally goes to take it out on Billy. He goes to the school to talk with Billy and have it out with him. But Billy manages to avoid having to have this conversation with his brother. So when Billy gets home, he can't find his hawk. And very sadly, very soul-crushingly, his brother has killed his hawk. And now Billy really has nothing. He has no thrill in life. He has no passion. It just kind of dies with his hawk. And that's the whole end of the movie. The end of the movie right there is when his hawk dies. This movie is painful. Every step of the way it's painful, but I'm sure this is really how life was in England back then. How hard upward mobility was to go from one class to another, working in the mines. Like I said, we see that in October Sky. On October Sky, he's able to build rockets and stuff. This is like a lower class area where they don't get the kind of education that they need to pursue other things besides manual labor. In fact, Billy talks with like a guidance counselor about his options, and the guidance counselor basically says your option is to do manual labor. That's basically it. That's your lot in life. That's where you're going to be. I'm assuming that's how it really was back then, and it's an absolutely bleak and terrible position to be in, and I can really see how this can cause like the teachers to give up, how it can cause like the students to give up, and it really creates this atmosphere that's really terrible for both the teachers and the students. And then you have the parents who want probably better for their children, but they know that that's not possible because of kind of where they were born into. And it's just a really bleak, horrible situation. And when he finds that hawk and he finally finds that passion that he was looking for, it really makes you feel fantastic for him. It makes you feel amazing. And then the movie just kind of really lets you down at the end. I stated before, I absolutely hate movies where animals die, especially this type of death where basically the end of the movie they're like, oh, never mind, gotcha. He actually doesn't have a reason to keep going. He actually doesn't have a reason to try. I feel like the first time he actually has like a reason to try to actually live like a decent life, to actually have some type of hope that maybe life isn't that bad. It's taken away from him, and then like really, what does he have after that? I think David Bradley's Billy does a really good job in this movie, considering this is the first movie he's ever been in. I think he does a fantastic job. All the actors around him do a fantastic job as well. The writing is spectacular. The directing is great. I'm a little put off. There are some scenes in here where like Billy is nude, and that's a little off-putting to me. I felt a little weird during those scenes. I wasn't sure if all of them are quite necessary. And the hawk dying at the end, I'm sure that's what's in the book. So if you're basing this on a book and you're going to be true to the book, then that's what you have to do. But I wasn't a fan. I wish they had just changed the ending, to be perfectly honest, because I don't know. I wanted something uplifting. I wanted him to be able to get out of the situation. I know that's not how life works. Like, it's not always roses and candy. It's not always a happy ending. But I would love to see something like good and happy in his life. I really thought he deserved to like have better. And we're kind of left in limbo at the end of the movie. What becomes of him? Does he end up in the mines? I guess we have to assume that he ends up in the mines. I mean, what becomes of his family? It's just, there's things at the end of the movie that I wanted answered. Whereas if his hawk lived, you could make an assumption that maybe he could do something with that, have some sort of profession where he trains hawks, or has some sort of show where he charges money for or something. This is just totally in limbo. I feel like we're just left out in the middle of nowhere at the end of the movie, and it was kind of sad. Anyway, I thought this movie was good. I don't think it's great. It's considered one of the greatest British movies of all time. I think it's like number 7 of all time for British movies. I don't know if I wouldn't rank it that high. I thought like the Lavender Hill Mob, I think that was British. I thought that was better than this movie. But this movie's good. It's depressing, so as long as you don't mind a movie that's completely depressing all the way through, that's completely heartbreaking all the way through, that doesn't end on a uplifting note. It's not October Sky, where at the end they become fantastic scientists and they are able to move upwardly through their tier, upwardly, profession-wise. It's not that kind of movie. It's just the kind of movie where you see the dread of this particular class of British citizen, and they just stay where they are, basically. But this movie wasn't bad. I thought it was actually pretty decent. I give it an 8 out of 10. Thank you. I hope you join me next time when I do my first movie from the 1970s, which will be The Wild Child. Thank you. Have a great day.